Zippity dippity doo. What's up? It's the Just Noise Boys. It's the same Wednesday it was a week ago. What? Isn't that confusing? Well, guess what? We split this into two parts. This is Spiritbox Part 2. We had to do this because it was long.
Yeah.
Big deal.
And because my eyes are tired and I can't edit a 4-hour video. So
Andrew
you can blame
is
it
tired. He's already complaining and the work hasn't even started yet.
Easy for you to say. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I don't do anything. Anyways, so this second half is pretty much about the life and times of Spiritbox, how they became a thing. They talk about their process of being in the band and how it happened, and
how we met them, how Bill started cutting our hair and making us look like better humans. What else? Tons of stuff coming up.
Lots to talk about
the
Europe
whole
and
insane European fiasco of getting caught in the whole COVID-19. Lots of crazy ass stories coming your way, and let's get into it right now.
Let's just stop talking and just make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, shit, this is where everything kind of converses now. We're all here together at the end. So we're going to talk about Spiritbox now. Like how
an hour later.
An hour later. How the fuck did Spiritbox happen? And I know like it obviously wasn't a thing that was just you guys are like, we're going to do this, because the way you all work is you think about everything you do very methodically, and just talk about that.
I mean, it basically started after Iwabo abruptly ended. And, you know, when it happened I guess it was like the end of 2015, it originally was going to be myself, Courtney, Mikey, and Ricky. And because it was just us four on the last few tours that Iwabo did. And the whole thing was like, okay, like, let's start something new. It's going to take a little while to write, blah, blah, blah. And long story short, the moment that we got home, which was like November of 2015, it was just like, write as much as possible. Let's figure this out. Let's develop this sound or whatever. It took about, I want to say like 7 or 8 months just to get it to the point where we're like, okay, we have the record. Because when we first started, it was about a month of like a huge struggle of us just, you know, of like me even just writing the same thing that Iwabo had been doing. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, like I don't feel good about doing that. It honestly just like makes me kind of fucking depressed, because it's just like, why would I just go and do something that's the exact same of what I just got, you know, thrown out of doing? Like I can't do it. I can't do it on that level anymore. So why would I want to now just start something new that's the same? Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of like, let's just focus on writing what we think are really catchy songs and see what happens. And, you know, 8 months later we had the record, and then we had to, you know, record it. We had to get it mixed. We had to get it mastered, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, by the time that we had the master, which was probably like over a year after that, you know, the other guys were just kind of like, hey, like, you know, can't really dedicate fully. We're, you know, they live in the States too. So it was just kind of like, this isn't really going to work at this point.
Right.
And then once we got the master, we sat around for a little bit and we were like, okay, well, now what do we do? And luckily, our old manager from Iwabo was interested in hearing it. He heard it. He loved it. And he was like, let's do it.
I didn't bother him that whole time.
Yeah, we didn't show him anything. But like in the back of our heads, we're like, oh, man, if we can get Jason on board, that'd be incredible. And yeah, he ended up loving it. And long story short, since then, you know, it's been that team. And we released it, I don't know, I want to say the fall of 2017. Mm-hmm. So it was 2 years after Iwabo ended. And it's just been go, go, go ever since, basically.
And by go, 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 we mean sit in our house.
Yes, sit in our house.
And watch it happen online.
And go like this.
Right.
And sometimes I visit.
Yeah. So it was nice when Bill came into the picture, because there was like finally someone for us to lean on.
Yeah.
And like complain to and brainstorm with, you know, because it was just us. It's just husband and wife, you know. Things get stinky and sloppy.
Yeah.
And so there's nice to have Bill's like the mediator.
Well, it was to the point where we were losing our minds, being like, is anyone even gonna give a shit? Like,
yeah, like this sucks. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, it was a brand new thing that we had never done before. The style of music we never even attempted before. So, you know, it was just like a really weird transition. But, you know, when it finally got released and everything, it was like, okay, well, it seems like some people enjoy it, so
Yeah.
we should probably just like, see how it goes, so.
But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I mean, within our local scene, it was fucking amazing. Like, we were all super pumped on it. I know, like, Andrew had sent me the shit that you had sent him before the stuff came out.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I listened to it and I was like, fuck, this stuff is so good. I'm glad that a band like this exists in the area that we live in with such amazing people writing and, you know, performing the music. But, like, I knew that I was going to love it. But seeing K-Mac repost it and like be like, this is amazing, everybody should listen to this, I was like, okay, fuck, like, here we go. Like, it's only up from here for this band now. Like, would you credit like K-Mac doing that with a lot of your success in the early beginnings?
I don't know.
honestly, Andrew as much as
K-Mac. Like, I mean, like,
right.
The weird thing about this band is that, with what we did before, and even in our old bands, the attitude was always like, just grind it out, tour as much as possible. And the one thing that, when Jason came on board, he was like, we have to strategically do this. We have to do this in a way where we have to develop the need for it and we have to build it. We can't just go out and just, like, you guys are old as fuck. We can't just go and do these like shitty tours and stuff. You're going to burn out. You're going to default on your mortgage and stuff. You're going to be miserable. So, this whole band, this whole time has just been like, let's just build it online. And a huge part of that has been, the YouTube community and YouTubers like Andrew and yourself, K-Mac. Johnny, and K-Mac and everybody who've been plugging us and stuff. And, that whole, although, especially for the first while, it was like, I want to pull my hair out because I'm not playing live. I'm so glad that we did that because, in my mind, even though it's not like a huge demand or whatever, it did build a demand for it,
definitely.
So.
Yeah, and, but we always...
I was going to open the blind, sorry, it's really dark in here.
And plug in that light. And turn all the lights on. It's so dark in here.
Yeah, it is.
Look how dark it is now. Yeah. But I'll say, too, that, like, I always want to preface that by saying, if you've never toured before and you haven't played live before, well then yes, like, you shouldn't just go, oh, well, it's never a tour, because we've all seen internet bands who have never played live go start to do their first stuff live, and it's the most awkward looking, they look like they're 13 years old and that they've never like held a guitar in public before, and they're all, it's all the rookie mistakes. So obviously, like, if you've never done that, then you should be trying to get yourself out there and play live and learn. But Michael and I and Bill we're in a different category. We've all been playing music for 10 years, over, 10 years plus, and we have done thousands of shows, and we don't need to learn how to, like, plug our guitar pedals in, So we're just, so the whole point of this is, like, we're poor and we need to be efficient because you can't afford to mess up and take a huge gamble. And I think a lot of people just like who are our age, who are trying to do music, and they're not like learning how to be a musician on stage. Like they already know how to do that, and they're just trying to get their band out. I think a lot of the times, like, having a DIY tour to look forward to is like almost this distraction, because it's something that you've supplied and there's no demand, and you're just distracting yourself by having a band practice twice a week, and that's what it's like, short-sighted. You're just like waiting for that thing, but if you take that away, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're not building a community. You're playing the same 10 people all the time. So it's like, just because we're able to, with the internet and stuff, we're able to, book all these DIY things and release our music and have our, our friends, like our band page, I think it's like really serves our egos. And it's like, if you take all that away and you don't have a jam space and a band and a little DIY tour coming up, you have to look it in the face what you actually have, and you have to be like, shit, we got to get this going. Because like we don't have any fans, So I think it lit a fire under our butts,
Yeah,
big time.
It's crazy how many up and coming bands or people within our scene now don't see it that way, and a lot of them still look at it with the old school approach. Like, I don't know, it's crazy to me that a lot of people are like, I have to tour and do this, but the music isn't there. you know, the image isn't there. You're just kind of doing it for the sake of doing it. Like,
that was
think
like
about what you're doing.
That was like a huge problem we had within Galactic when we were still around, was like, that's probably the main reason why we had so many ex-members, was because I was always of the mindset of what I do now, where I was like, you know, basically exactly what you're saying. It's like, why the fuck would we go on tour and spend all of our money doing that when like nobody necessarily gives a shit or wants to see us? Like, what's the point? Like, it's fun, yes, but like,
of course,
it's like if I'm gonna pay to go somewhere, I would rather go on vacation almost.
Oh my God,
you know
Andrew!
what I mean?
This is the speech that we give all of our friends. We're like, if you want to look at it like a fun bonding trip with your friends,
like, go on a
that's
fucking
great.
vacation.
Go to Mexico.
Together. You know, and but we have to all remember that some people weren't playing in bands since they were teenagers, and so they do need that. Or they are teenagers, but we're talking to the people that are in their mid to late 20s and 30s. You know, there's no excuse. There's no like support your scene. We're all buddy, like, let's all support one another. It's like, nah, we're all in our 30s and we all have full-time jobs, and I don't know you, so fuck you. Like, I'm not just gonna pretend like your band's awesome just because like you also play music. Your band sucks. You know? So I'm not gonna go to your stupid show. So, you know, it's different when you're old. It's different when you're older. Like, you guys, you had that mentality probably because you guys have all, you know, worked in the music. And you're like, you've been exposed probably to more stuff than, I don't know about you guys, but living on the island, like, we're not exposed to anything. You know, like we are so like behind the times of, for metal, you know, there's people in like rock bands and in like hip hop and EDM there, that's a whole different thing. But for like metalcore people, you know, we're all very like sheltered here. We don't get to see all that stuff.
Right.
Makes sense.
Something kind of like within the lines of what we're talking about here, something that Andrew and I really appreciate about your band is, you know, we love the music and that speaks for itself, but also your approach to marketing and your image. Like, what goes into that? Like, what is your thought process when, like, okay, we're releasing a song or we're doing merch, here comes a video. What do you think about up until that point?
Well, having no money, so you have to be innovative.
Big time.
You know, if you you know, at the time when we started in the band, like, Michael was delivering pizzas and I was like working at a cafe. You know, like we didn't have any money, and so you have to either be boring and not do anything, or get really creative. But you can't afford to just pay some random dude $6,000 to shoot, you know, a stupid generic video for you. You have to come up with something yourself that's free or almost free, and learn how to, you know, to edit your videos and do stuff on an iPhone.
Like, you know, like, especially when we started, like, oh man, it was crazy. Like, you know, for instance, we have a video for a song called Mar Effect Part 3 where Courtney's in a milk bath. And, you know, that was kind of like the starting point of like, okay, well, you know, we need a visual for this. What can we do? Courtney had an idea for a milk bath, so I went to the grocery store and I think the budget for the video was like $24, and I was like, okay,
like 3 bottles of milk and some flowers.
I was like, okay, I can get an app on my phone where I can control like the frames per second a little better than just in like the default settings. So we're gonna film this on my phone, and then we're gonna download the free version of Final Cut, and then there's a loophole in Final Cut. They've changed it now, but if you change your date in the system settings, then it restarts the trial.
Classic.
You know.
So that was that. It was basically just like taking video of like, you know, random scenery from around here and just putting it in black and white. There's another reason why we did black and white in the beginning too, was because it was so easy to edit.
Yeah, that's why we did all black and white.
It's like a cohesive thing where it's just like, you know, the filters that are pre-done on Final Cut that are black and white actually look pretty damn good, to the point where you only have to mess around with the highlights and the darkness of it, as opposed to like doing a full-on thing where it's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
So everything was strategic, just out of necessity.
Interesting.
And, you know, it's similar to you guys deciding to like create your own content you do, like, you know, someone had to teach you, like YouTube taught you, you know, you had to just go, well, I guess I'm gonna do this myself. I can't pay anyone to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when I started my YouTube channel, and even still to this day, like, I do basically everything myself, except for like maybe a video here or there. And it was the same thing. Like, I learned how to do everything I know how to do because I couldn't afford to have anyone else do it for me. So I was like, well, it's either I don't do it or I learn how to do it. And you know, obviously in the long run that pays off. But you know, your first month or two doing it, you're like, holy fuck, why am I even bothering, right?
Well,
a lot of it is just, you know, honestly, most of it I'd say is lucking out on a few different things that we've done, where it's, you know, we put all this thought and effort into this whole thing, and then it just turns out that it actually worked, as opposed to, you know, like, you know, last minute, a week before, like, oh, we'll just do like a shaky video with like lyrics or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of one of those things where even if we don't have a budget, or if we don't have something, we always attempt. And there have been times where, like, whatever we've tried just has not worked, and we've been like, "Well, no one's going to see this."
I think that it also, just at the time at least, I just really was not inspired by any of my genres stuff that people were putting out. Like,
it became pretty stagnant for sure.
I just wasn't, not like musically I was into some stuff, but there just wasn't anything within my. Are you sneaky trying to open your Monster Energy drink?
It's already open.
Oh.
I've been letting it flow, baby. There you go.
Or actually, I'll get a DC in a little bit.
Okay.
We'll get some DC in the mix, some
DC
Diet Coke. But anyway, so I think that a lot of people that are more inspired by just other genres of music and other art forms, it probably just makes your stuff, you know, like if we were like some hipster indie band, they'd probably look at our visuals and be like, yeah, everyone does that. But, you know, in our world, not a lot of people were doing that, because I think that in the metal world, we're always trying to prove something. Mm-hmm. We're trying to prove to all our parents and all of our friends from high school that we are successful and that you can have a career from this music. So everyone is just lying and pretending like they're like some huge fancy rock star, when in the reality is like, you're broke and all you can ever, we're poor. We're poor. You know? So I think that's probably it too, because you know, all those people would be like, what's our music video budget and how can we make ourselves look as cool as possible?
Yeah. Let's get some fire in there, some explosives.
Mix and some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't need that stuff. And other than that, I think just the main thing that, like, I always try to tell people and to like be preachy about is just never let geography determine who you work with, because I feel like I don't know about you guys, but I think that's a very, at least like Victoria thing, or maybe Western Canada thing, I don't know, but we're very stuck in like 2005, where it's like, I want to record a record, and then you go, okay, well, who in my town can record the record? But really, you should be saying, who is the best person for this job? Yep. Who is the best person to work with for music videos and merch and to be on our team? Not just like, who lives in my town?
Who's convenient?
Yeah, and I mean, you know what I mean? We're so lucky that Bill happens to at least live in Vancouver, but, you know, he'd probably still be in our band even if he lived in New York City,
Idaho.
In Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho. Yeah. Well, like, look at your guys' drummer too. They ended up fighting as well. Like,
that little man's in
diamond in the rough, man. That kid's unreal.
Yeah. That's what you got to do. You got to get them while they're young.
Yeah, young and supple.
Young and supple.
But that's a great point that I think a lot of people should definitely think about more, for sure.
Yeah, because, you know, it sucks not getting to do those normal band things that people take for granted, like just going and having a jam and having a beer with each other once a week. But as I was saying, to me, I'm just trying to be positive about it, and I'm saying that it's just eliminating a distraction that isn't actually helping me. How many times do I need to practice these songs with these guys?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No. That's something we talked about a couple weeks back when we were kind of like joking around, that I'm sure you guys know of like some bands in your area or whatever where they practice like 3 times a week, like 3 hours a day.
It's a social thing.
And we were just like, but why?
Why though?
Yeah. But
I
why?
think it's because that's just what we were like when you're a kid. It's like, that's your time, your special time with your buddies, you know, like to learn. So I think, like, you know, 10 years ago, that was extremely helpful to me. But as as grown-ups, it's like we have to just be more. We can't afford to not be efficient.
Yeah,
because then
for sure.
you know what? In 2 years from now, I'm gonna be 33, and in 7 years after that, I'm gonna be 40. I don't have time to jam with my friends. I've never the word like going and jamming. That'd be so fun. Someday we're gonna do a jam.
Yeah.
That's you know what I mean. There's pros and cons.
Yeah,
like there's.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's not like that's the only way. We're missing out on a lot of valuable stuff too. But I'm just trying to, we're just always trying to be positive about our situation. And so that's the positive way we look at it. So, tour-pocalypse is just our reality,
Yeah.
Well,
So-
yeah. What are you gonna do? Just fucking sit at home and cry about it, or try and figure something
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna kill bands, and it's gonna make bands, even better than they were before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, everyone's going to learn a lot. And I think, man, it's going to be so... Just imagine, like, the first concert that comes back to your town.
Yeah.
Like, the first big show that comes back, you're just going to be... Well, actually, Johnny, you're probably going to be pulling your freaking hair out trying to, like, get everything ready for it. But
Yo, I'll gladly pull my hair out as long as I'm at work doing my job.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
yeah,
Pull
you're
it
just
out,
gonna
man.
be
I don't give a
popping
shit.
champagne bottles at the job.
Yeah, big time.
But
I'm gonna-
it's gonna be awesome when that,
Yeah.
that happens again.
Oh, I can't wait, man. I'm gonna cry when I go back to work if it ever happens.
I know it's just one of those things that, like, especially you guys being in Vancouver, you probably don't take it for granted, but you're more used to getting to go to really inspiring shows like that.
Yeah,
And it's
100%.
just, man, you just must miss it so much. It's just like it was just so goddamn delightful being on tour with all those cool professional bands and just getting to learn from them. It was just like, it's like when we get to hang out with you guys, it's like we're with someone that understands us.
One of
Speaks
us,
our
one
language.
of us.
That's how I feel about
That's
hanging
why
out with you guys too. 'cause-
Yeah. You don't have to explain what you're doing to us. Like, we
Yeah.
just get
Yeah.
it. We know.
Or
we
you do
understand
explain
you.
it, and you're like, "Oh, that's a really good idea," and you're
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
you're literally learning from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So,
is great.
and I think when we get older too, it's just like your friend, our other music friends, they've kind of like moved on, or they don't really quite understand what we're trying to do. So you just kind of feel misunderstood. We only have a couple friends that we really even say anything to our band about. I mean, most of my friends probably, I don't know about you. Bill's, your friends are pretty supportive of you, but most of our friends, like, we have very few friends that we even bother saying anything about our band to. Like,
Yeah,
at
it took
all.
a while. It took up until the last two songs for people to understand.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Fair enough.
So now it's nice because we're getting to hang out with people like, like you guys more that understand us. So
Yeah,
we
of
feel-
course.
Yeah, so we feel very understood.
Fuck yeah.
Definitely.
So kind of the last thing before we, end this almost fucking 2-hour interview, and thank you guys for hanging out for so long.
Are you kidding? We love to talk.
Hell yeah. So what? Just because, like, I played a show with you guys in my other band Bastion in Vancouver,
It
and
was so fun.
those shows that you guys played up until Europe seemed like they were fucking awesome. Like, what was it like playing that Victoria show and having, so many people there? And it was like, was it super like validating for everything you guys have worked for? Like, that your hometown was like, fuck yeah? Or
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
because we didn't know that if anyone would come.
for me, it was cool to have my family there.
Yeah.
My dad has never seen me play, and same with my brother. So it was like a really cool way to be like, this is what I've been doing for a long time,
And that's a good one for them to
Yeah.
come to.
Yeah.
It was mental, it was great to be able to present it in that way, and have Zev with us as well. And it was just awesome to see, that crowd of people like enjoying what we were doing. We had some people come from the States and come from out of province and stuff, which was mental. I didn't expect that whatsoever. But yeah, it was just great. It was just like kind of like, okay, now we're pretty much ready to go. You know what I
It
mean?
helped give us that. I don't know about you, Bill, too. Like, for me, it just made me feel more confident about going into the tour.
Yeah.
And I feel like we messed up a lot in the Vancouver show.
Yeah.
I was like,
you know
oh.
what? I was like, there was a couple like hiccups and stuff, but
But we
after
nailed the
show-
Victoria show.
Yeah.
after the show, I was like, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but the
It was
whole
fun.
leading up to that show, I was like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Like, it's all going to be over. And then after, it's like, well, you know, some of those things happened, but it wasn't that bad, and everybody had a good time.
It was a
I
free
was
show.
definitely way more confident the second night.
That's the trick to doing a show in Vancouver. Just have a free show.
Just have it be free.
Free show. That's how you get people
Then
out. Like,
people will come.
And then people
that
will be like,
show
I mean,
was so fun, and it was in
Yeah.
such a
It was cool.
place I wouldn't expect a metal show to be.
yeah,
you know
that
what
was
I mean?
Bill's
Like,
idea.
It was Bill's idea.
I know, good on Bill because
I
it was
had
a
never
fucking
been there
call.
before in my life.
No.
Before
He was
that.
like,
I
trust
just had
me,
this feeling,
trust
and
me.
I knew that it wouldn't be like I was like, either this is going to go exactly like I planned, or it's going to be a total fart.
Yeah.
And I think they said because they usually do shows. I think they do shows there Fridays and Saturdays, and I was going to be like, well, like, we're a newer band, and I don't want to, like, ask them for one of their busier nights, because my barbershop that I work for is under the same umbrella as the bar. But I was like, but they were like, we really want you guys to play. I was like, all right, fine. Like, if you can give us a Friday or a Saturday. And I had a feeling that it would, we could, like, make it crazy, but I was super stoked. I was pretty worried for a little bit.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was nice to get those done, and then like for me personally, once we finished the Victoria show, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were ready.
We're gonna be okay. I think.
We felt because you guys got to remember we didn't get to ever practice with Zev. Like
Right.
I know
we
that was
picked him up
mind blowing.
from the
But that
airport.
kid,
And
that kid's a professional, man. Like, he's young,
Oh,
but he's
Yeah.
gonna have a great career if he keeps playing and
oh my god,
has that
yeah.
work ethic like he has.
Yeah,
He's awesome, and
We're
it
very
was
fortunate
it
to
was
have
so
him.
fun. It made me feel so much better when I was singing, and then Andrew and Johnny were just right up there with me, just supporting us and singing along with us, and
yeah, it was sick.
oh, that was just
It was great.
there's such nothing.
got it.
There's no better feeling, especially
There,
like
there was one song that we played at those shows that we had never played together.
Oh
yeah, actually,
Was
yeah.
it Blessed Be or
No,
No.
Belcara.
Yeah.
We just were like, we didn't have, people were like, when more songs? We were like, I
Right.
guess we'll play that
Okay.
one.
Yeah,
Because we know
Okay.
Zev knows it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
so that was awesome. That was such a I'm happy that because we've already I think it's like a defense mechanism. It's like fine, we don't care about local scene, whatever, because it's we feel like misunderstood and rejected from it. It's like
Right.
a defense thing. Like fine, we don't want you anyway.
Yeah.
But really, we do want to feel like we belong and like that people support us, and it just made us so happy. It was like
Yeah.
a little fantasy night.
It was great.
Yeah.
yeah, it's important for sure.
Yeah.
So, and then right after that was Europe. So, if you don't like, you can go into the actual amazing parts of doing that European tour with After the Burial, and then just maybe explain the chaos.
Oh
that
yeah,
followed.
hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You start explaining, Michael. I'm
So-
gonna go get a Diet Coke. I say we keep this podcast going, baby.
we're going.
yeah, Europe, getting there and everything was just a trip, and minus the jet lag, the first couple of days it was like, holy shit, this is wild. And then after that, it was like, oh, like we've done this so
Yeah,
much.
we're back.
We've all done this
It's like
so
riding
much.
a bike.
You know what I mean? Like it's fine.
Mhm.
But it was interesting going into it because I feel like with this band, it's always been like, this is happening, so you got to learn how to figure it out and get it done in enough time so that it can be done. And when we were originally in talks about doing this tour, it was September of last year, and it was like our manager, because he manages them as well, was just like, hey, ATB is going to need an opening slot, and it's between you guys and Dealer. So it's looking pretty good. And then, that evolved into like a couple months of more discussion. And then it finally,
Just let us do it.
it went through, and we were just like, oh shit, it's happening. Like, oh fuck. So yeah, just getting to be involved with that and getting to be around those people and those like, that class of musicianship and everything. And it was just nice because it was just kind of like one of those situations where when we left Iwabo, it was like, I didn't know if we were going to be able to get to do that again. I didn't know. It's not like it's like the hugest band in the world or whatever, but at the same time, it was just like kind of going back to where we were before in a sense. So it was just kind of like, okay, like, let's just be the most accommodating people on this tour. Let's just like not mess up. Let's not mess around. Let's not get drunk. Let's not do anything. And let's just try to kill it and just be on time with everything. And yeah, so it was really good. And the opportunity that we had to even do what we did was amazing. It was
and we
incredible.
were like, are these people gonna respect us? Because I remember those guys, but it's not like we kept in touch. So remember me? I haven't seen you in 8 years. Yada yada.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And but we just figured that generally, if you find out that a band's never toured before, and then all of a sudden they're like throwing down for a bus and like they are just going to another country, like another continent, and I would give the side eye. I'd be like, who are these guys? Are these like rich spoiled babies? Because that's not usually like what happens. And also it's like, maybe in their mind they're doing our managers a favor. Probably they're like, okay, we'll have them, because no one would ever give us a chance. Like, we've been ready to go on tour for like the last year, where we're like, let's do this.
Yeah.
And no one would give us a chance. We couldn't even get a US booking agent at all. Like, no one would even care. No one cared.
Crazy.
And then when we put out the Rule of Nines video, and then when in the fall, and then what I knew it would happen is, I think that people don't understand that, like, our numbers don't look impressive at all, like our social media numbers, but we have a really small amount of psycho fans that are so awesome and so dedicated to helping. Like, they just really want to see us succeed. Mm-hmm. And so that's when that started coming into play, that's when the normal world of like the all the people in those circles were like, oh, wait a second, these people don't have a lot of fans, but the fans they do have are crazy. So they started to notice us. So it was really cool. It's like we got to go into step into the real world, and then hopefully rise to the occasion of how awesome our recordings sound, because Dan's such an amazing producer.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot to prove, because it's so disappointing when a band has great recordings and you see them live and you're just like, did you guys even record that? They're not ready. They weren't ready to get out there, or they did too much too soon on their recordings,
And then it just went all to shit.
Yeah, so it was so immediately all the bands on this tour were so nice to us. They watched us play, and and I felt like respect immediately, I felt like equals. And they just were so nice. Everyone was just so helpful and nice to us. Yeah. Which was, there couldn't have been a more perfect group of people for us to have our first tour with, because you guys know how it is when it's been a little while since you've toured. I mean, for us, it had been 4 years. And for Bill, how many years had it been for you?
2013, I think, was the last time I did a tour.
Yeah.
I mean, more than like a handful of shows, you know what I mean?
So
things obviously have changed so much with just just technology, the way that you meet people and fans and stuff. But like, even for me, like Michael and I spending time together, and I'm like, okay, like I need to like change the way I play my instrument. I need to change the gear I use, and then bringing that in, like, it's definitely obviously to one thing when you're either jamming at home and it's plugged into the computer or rehearsing, but bringing that stuff into a live setting and be like, okay, like I can't have all this stuff, or I need to be able to take all this stuff down really quick. And it's like little things like that you forget so quick.
So we were lucky that everyone was so accommodating and helpful to us. Yeah. And it seemed like all the bands, Make Them Suffer, Polar, and After the Burial, even though they were all tired and jet lagged and really busy people, they all seemed like they wanted us to succeed. I think that once they realized that we were kind of all the same age and like had the same interests and stuff. Like I said, it was like a destiny to be on that tour, because there couldn't have been nicer people to make us feel more relaxed that we were stuck on a bus with. Mm-hmm. It was perfect. They all just were so welcoming to us.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. What was the crowd response like over in Europe for you guys?
It was fucked.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where, like, people were showing up already wearing our shirts.
Yeah, dude.
Crazy.
We would play in like Slovakia, and I'd be sitting at the merch table with Bill, and we would like crack one open tonight because no one's gonna be around. You know what I mean? And like the people would start walking in, and someone would just run up and be like, "Mike, I love your band," and it's like, I don't even
I'll
know
take
how
3
you know.
shirts. And
Yeah.
hoodie.
Yeah, it's like I don't even know how you know my name. Like that's mental, you know.
Yeah, we're like
crazy,
the internet's fucked.
The internet's fucked, and you know
It
the.
is.
It's and I'm not meaning that like everyone came there and
There's
and,
lots
like,
of
knew
staring.
every word and everything like that. There's a lot of staring. There's a lot of people like figuring us out.
Yeah.
But just the fact that like a percentage of the audience showed up already knowing all the words, already knowing us and stuff, and coming up to us after and talking to us for. God, there was people flying in from the States that had Spiritbox tattoos. It was just like this weird experience where it's like, okay, we've held out for so long. To the point where like I went crazy thinking that like this is just not even a real thing, and then we go over to Europe and then these people are showing up like with shirts and tattoos and stuff, and it was just a fucking crazy experience in that way.
It's insane.
It just didn't feel real, like
One of my favorite things, I know it's Courtney, you're not gonna think this is funny, but I giggle about it when I think about it. Is that every day Courtney would come down and she's like, "Now Bill and Michael, do what I tell you when it comes to the merch. Keep these piles this way. Use this Excel sheet I made you." And we're like, all right, tonight we're going to kill it. We're going to stay organized. We're going to stay calm. And then about, I don't know, 3 bands in, Michael and I were just like, what the fuck you got burned? And then after the show, Courtney would come down and there would be like 60 shirts, all different sizes, just in a pile.
All over
And then
the
him and I
fucking
just
place.
like looking at each other with like tears in our eyes. Like,
So, guys, the way that I like to do my merch is like the professional way that I learned from professional merch guys who gave me their very fancy Excel Google Docs. And you don't write down what you sell. You count in what you have, like your sample, like five of each or whatever, like a size run. And then you don't count the whole night. And then at the end of the night, you just count that pile. And then there it is. That's the professional way of doing it. That's how you don't go, hold on, and like write down large in a check.
Me and Bill are dum-dums.
No,
we
every
would just
time.
panic and be like, "Ah!"
Because it's hard to sell merch and sell yourself. Like you can't just go, yeah, what do you want? You're also meeting someone that loves your band, and you need to be respectful and give them time, not go, hold on, I'm looking for a medium tank top. And and
it's an art in its own, man. It's fucking
yeah.
hard.
And we all suck at it. We're horrible at it. So I can't. Whoever you guys want to be our merch guys, next time we go on tour.
Well, Bill was trying to convince me to come on that tour. I don't know how serious you were. But...
I was, of course.
Well, no, actually, we wanted to bring people, but we thought that there wasn't any room on the bus.
Yeah.
But then when we got there was like an extra bunk. So
and Bill texted me that, and he's like, dude, you can totally come. And I was like, man, there's no way I can spend like thousands of dollars to do that. And then I got my tax return, and I was like,
I know.
yo.
And then they brought that second driver on, and then Curtis came.
Yeah. And Andrew,
And
if you had come,
It
you
would've
would have
been
come to the UK,
and then flown back home.
And that's when the tour was canceled.
So good on you for not
literal
doing
apocalypse.
So it's a good thing
Yeah.
it didn't happen, but I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I might actually be able to go on this tour. And then,
Yeah.
the next day it was like,
Yeah.
I think you guys were like, oh, it's not going to work out because of this. And then the day after that, they're like, the whole tour is canceled. So I was like, oh,
Dude.
well.
Never
mind.
I'm so glad that you did not have
you
to
imagine?
witness what
Oh,
happened when all that went down. Like,
Oh my god! You want to see 3 grown people have a mental breakdown all at the same
fuck
time?
me, man. It was
Dude,
wild.
I messaged Bill while that was happening. Like, I don't know if you remember, but I was like, I fucking hope you guys are okay. Like, I hope you get home now.
I'm gonna give the rundown if you guys don't mind. I'll give the rundown of what happened.
please
okay?
do.
Wait, first you have to explain that we were like all drinking that night.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
We had a day off the next day. It
Okay,
was
And it
really
was
Friday
3 in the morning.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So we finished playing the show, and basically it went like this. So like the last week, the last, I don't know, I want to say like 4 or 5 shows before that night, it was like 5 people would show up at the merch table and be like, what's going to happen when coronavirus inevitably cancels your tour? To then like the next night it was like 10 people, to then the night after that being like, this coronavirus is fucked, isn't it? And then that evolved into like 20, and to
And
the
we
point
kept
where
missing it.
and we kept missing it. We kept on like we only canceled Italy, and then we were everywhere that we would go. Like once we passed it, the next day the area would be like, "Oh, we're canceling."
Yeah,
this,"
you heard
know?
it here first. We are the super spreaders.
Yeah.
Oh my
So-
god.
basically from there, we fast forward to that very last show. We were in Switzerland, weren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it got to the point where there were so many people talking about it that night, even like band members. I remember Joe Rogan put out that podcast with like that specialist, and everybody was talking, like the whole package was just like, oh, this is fucked. It's kind of crazy. And then some people be like, nah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And
that the UK's safe. We just gotta make it to the UK.
And that night, I literally remember saying to myself, I think that's the last show we're gonna play.
Yeah.
And so
we were like,
but it wasn't like the general theme of it. It was just a weird feeling I had, and so we packed everything up. We played great, and we got on the bus, and it was the first time on a night drive that we were able to stop at a gas station. So everyone was just like kind of tipsy, and then also because it was in Switzerland and like the dollar so nuts, like the franc, everybody spent like $60 on like 4
chips.
items, because it was just like, and they didn't give a fuck because everyone was just so happy, and everybody's just like, this tour is going great. No one has an issue with anyone. Everyone's happy. And then we're all sitting on the downstairs of the bus, and it's about like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting there just like do whatever, and Courtney is upstairs, and she texts me, and she goes, because at the gas station I had just gotten Stroop waffles, like a big fucking bag of them, and so she texts me and she goes, Michael, come up to our bunk and bring the Stroop waffles. So I was like, okay. I'm not alarmed. I'm like, business as usual.
I didn't want it because Jason said don't.
Well, no. So I walk up there and
don't alarm.
I give her the bag of Stroop waffles, and I'm like, she's on the bottom bunk, so I'm like, look, that's like, what's going on? And she looks at me, and she goes, look at this, and she flips her phone, and it's our manager Jason being like, with the link of the travel ban, and just being like, you guys have to come home. And I just looked at it and I was like, huh. And then I saw everybody at the back of the bunk was like congregating in like the party zone or whatever at the back of where the bunks were. And some people had already gone to bed. So I walked over, and they're all just like drinking or whatever, just laughing. And I was like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like, have you guys seen this travel ban shit? And they were just like, what? And they looked over and they saw it, and just like wide eyed. And then I went downstairs, and the ATB guys were like, all right, so are we gonna fly out of Paris, or where are we gonna fly out?
And we're all like,
and we're just like, what?
No.
What do you mean? Are we gonna fly out? And so they're talking about it. And at first we're all talking. We're like, well, I mean, it makes sense that we could just finish the UK run because
the UK wasn't
in the band, so we can just finish the UK shows, and then we can book flights. And our manager is emailing us being like, let's book flights for 7 days from now. We should be okay. Yeah. We'll be in the clear. And so we're just kind of hanging out. And then Dan Carl from After the Burial was like, oh no, like we're going home. We're going home tomorrow. And I just kind of looked at everybody, and I was like, is that legit? Like, is everybody like, what do you mean? And just slowly, everybody just started clicking and being like, this is over.
Yeah.
This is done. And we have to figure out a way home now.
So we're just jettisoning down the highway.
We're going down this highway on the bottom of this bus.
Going through the
in the mountains with barely any cell reception.
Going through the mountains and
trying
shit.
To book our flight.
Google Flights, just like going like this. And at that point, it had evolved into like, we had now realized the situation, and we're like, we just need to get back to Canada. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting there going through Google Flights, and we see flights just to Toronto and stuff, and they're like $600, $800 each. And every time we go to book them, it would freeze because literally everybody in Europe was doing the same thing at that time, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So for like 3 hours, we're like just going down the highway on this bus, just being like, fucking, and we, and it's not even a case of like you're clicking buy, it's like you're filling out all of the information to do it. And every time you hit checkout, it's like lost connection or like server down
404.
So we're literally sitting there, and the situation's getting more and more involved, and we're just stressing because it's like everybody around us is getting flights. Everybody, is figuring it out except us. And, we just basically were like, what the fuck do we do? And our cell reception kept on coming in and out. So we would get an email of Jason being like, give me your credit card number, all of your passport info. I'm going to get ATB's travel agent to book you home. Mm-hmm. And we'd get that, and then we'd start typing it in, and then our cell reception would go down. Yeah. And we couldn't send the email, and he's like, I'm waiting. And we're just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Finally, we send it to him. It's at that point about 6:30 in the morning, and then our phones buzz at like 7 a.m., and it's all of our round trip. And it's from Heathrow direct to Vancouver and Victoria.
And poor little Zevi back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, and
where he's from.
And Zev was able to get his own flight
Thank
with
God he didn't go
United.
to New York City.
Yeah,
Like,
because
war zone.
for American flights and stuff like that, it wasn't so busy, it wasn't so crazy, which I was surprised. He was like literally as we were stressing out, he looked at us, he's like, "I got mine. Okay, bye." And then he went upstairs.
He went to bed.
He went to bed.
Imagine that.
No
poor
way.
guy.
Yeah, he was like, "Fuck this, I'm going to bed."
Imagine him. It's his first tour.
Oh,
It's on a bus in Europe with a bunch of people he's never met before, and then that's how it ends.
So
I was gonna ask, how did he handle that situation? Like, I thought like he
Amazing.
would just
Dude.
shoot
Like the
his pants.
SpongeBob meme, man. He was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna head out.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
Yeah. He's like the most. He's
Dude.
a very mature, responsible person.
He handled everything, every situation on that tour, before,
anything.
after, just a pro.
He was the MVP
Just a
of that
total.
trip.
He was an
That's
MVP.
fucking crazy, man.
He was
Good
the
for
most
him.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where everyone was like very messy, sloppy drunk, except Zev.
No.
He would just be like,
He's like, "I just want to play drums."
and he was good. Because we thought he'd be a bad boy because he's 19 and
Yeah.
it was like he lives in the States where it's
Right,
the
21.
drinking age 21. So we thought he'd be like a bad boy and be all naughty, like I can
He
drink.
did not care.
No, he just like I don't care.
So basically, once we got the final confirmation, it was like, your flights are booked. I then slept for, well, me and you, we slept for like 2 hours or something, and then we had to get up because we were crossing onto from France to the UK. Got on the ferry, had really shot food, and then we drove to Heathrow and abruptly had to say goodbye to everybody on the package.
Like
And then
5 seconds.
We fell asleep at like 11 after going to the wrong hotel, and then woke up at like 6, and then we were on our flights. That was it. It was just like going from having the best time ever and being like, yeah, we're doing it, to then like, you got to get the fuck home. It was crazy.
And
Man.
it was horrible. But you know what? It's like it was crazy. Like our flights were like 10 grand to get home.
Yeah.
And so we had to buy like 2 sets of round trips.
Yeah.
But it's okay. That's why we didn't tour for so long, because we needed to wait till we had, till we could afford to have something crazy happen and we would still be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's a perfect example of, I never would have thought that would have happened.
No.
So, it sucked because I felt like the fun was just beginning, We were so happy, and it was like the tour was too good to be true. Like everyone on the tour, I've never been on a tour where I liked every single person on the bus.
Mhm.
And that one, I liked everybody. It was awesome. That we rolled up with no sound guy because there was no room on the bus for us to bring crew. And then after the burial, sound guy was like talking. We watched them sound check. Obviously, he's incredible. And then I was like, all right, time to go weasel my way in. So then we were just like, hey, would you like to go on a date tonight and then see if it works out? And he was like, excellent. So he did. So then he ended up doing our sound.
I like money.
Yeah. So
yeah.
so that was so cool because it gives you so much more confidence when you have someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
of course.
definitely.
But you know what? We're just, like I said, we felt bad for ourselves for about 5 minutes, and then then everyone in the world got everything taken away from them, and we were like, you can't be a big baby and feel bad for yourself when the whole world is up in flames. Like all of us had something crappy.
It's a big
happen to us,
picture
so.
thing for sure. You have to put it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that night when we were on YouTube Live and we were all like so stressed out, and I was like, "Don't cry, don't you cry." And then Andrew gave us like $100 he donated, and it made me cry so hard. And before we left, you guys, Johnny got a shirt, and I was like, "You don't need to pay for the shirt, dude." And he's like, "I'll PayPal you, I'll e-transfer you for the shirt." And our shirts were like $25 or something. And then I got home, and Johnny sent us $100.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This is for you guys. I want you to treat yourself to something because I love you guys."
You guys are mental.
You guys
I
are
know. I mean, you guys
Well-
are just so generous.
Yeah.
Like that was I've never been able to do that for anyone in my life. Like that's so nice.
Yeah.
Well, that tour was a huge thing for you guys, and like, I just wanted to support you guys. Like, I don't mean to be sappy and shit, but like, you guys have supported us through, what you do as well, and we appreciate that. So I just feel like, reciprocating that same notion. It's just I just wanted you guys to have a successful tour, and like anything that I can do to help, fuck yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
I know you guys are the best.
And I just couldn't imagine I felt bad for you guys, but I was like, I can't imagine how much worse it would feel to be in your shoes at that point in time. So I was like, the only thing I can do is throw money at them, and I can't do anything else. So I guess that's what I'll do.
Here you go. And I bought merch from you guys like not long after that too. Because I'm like, fuck, like they're gonna need it.
You guys, I feel guilty of how much merch you get from us. Soon we'll be a real band and we'll have physical merch all the time.
Hook you up.
And we'll shower you.
Oh, you
we'll
guys all
I don't care.
That.
I don't care. It's fine.
You're like, we have jobs. We're fine.
Even that night, of that Vancouver
money.
show too, you got your fucking window smashed as well, hey?
Oh my god.
Oh,
yeah,
what?
Souped.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, we did. Dude, I'm okay.
God, I'm sorry that we keep keeping you guys, but we have so much
fine.
funny stuff that happens to us.
We'll end this soon and we can actually talk after.
Yeah, it's all good. To end that whole thing, my window got smashed, and it just threw the whole night off because it was just stressful for us because Zev had only played with us for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We were going all the way to Vancouver and blah blah blah, doing this and that, making sure it's all good. And so when we finished and I went back out to my car and saw my window smashed, I don't know why, but like it just threw me for a loop where I was like, fuck, like god damn. It's probably because it's just like so mentally draining.
Well, we were in the middle of loading
stuff.
out.
Yeah. And so when I rolled back into the venue and I showed everybody, I was like, hey guys, check this out. It was like, oh, bummer, but whatever. But because of that, I gapped on grabbing my fucking rig
that he just got.
My SKB case that had my Kemper and literally the heart of our whole set.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we fill everything up, and because we were like, sharing a little bit of space with Vultures, the other band that played, and they took some of our stuff because we were going to Victoria at the same time the next day. I just thought that it was in their van, and I swear someone was like, "Oh, I got it, don't worry," and we left. So we started driving to the hotel, and I drove for at least half an hour, and I just remember just sitting there driving, and it was quiet, and like Zev's to the right of me, and I literally just met him. And
he's a 19-year-old boy.
19-year-old kid.
Just met us.
I'm trying to be as like normal as fucking possible because we're about to spend the next month together, right? Yeah. And we're driving for like half an hour, and I just remember having this thought, just being like, "Where's my rig?" And I pulled over, and I literally just go and open up the back, and I just start like panic crying.
We were like in our hotel, like we were near a hotel in like Tawasin.
We were in Swasin.
Jesus Christ.
And I open it up, and I start just being like, where is it? Where the fuck is it? And I start doing that, and it to the point where like everything went through my mind of like the 2 months of prep, building the session, everything being where it is, and I've never been gonna be able to replace it. Like blah blah blah. And I just thought of like some guy outside the venue just coming across it and opening up, being like, "Oh, $7,000 worth of shit, sick." I'm walking away with it, and I just literally I've never even when we got the news that like we were done the tour and stuff.
Yeah,
that was like 5% of where I was thinking that my entire life was over.
We've dealt with some stressful stuff, and I've known Michael since he was 16.
So imagine
I've
this.
never seen him react like this to anything.
Zev has only met us on FaceTime twice. This is now his third day with us, and he's sitting in the passenger seat of my car, and I'm a 28-year-old man literally holding my head in my hands,
Screaming.
just being like it was like someone stabbed me and then ran off. Like I had a fucking mental breakdown. I've never had that.
So
before.
I'm like, maybe Bill has it. I said maybe Bill has it. So I called Bill.
Yeah. So he called. Courtney called Bill and was just because obviously Bill knows the owner and everything. And for fucking, we're so lucky that this happened. But the venue was open till like 2:30, and it was like 2.
The GM was there because he usually is there till like. The GM went to Bill Burr that night, and so he skipped out on work.
Yeah.
And then so he came back at the end of the show to start like doing his actual work shift for like 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
So Courtney called me, and then I called the guy, and he's like, yeah, it's here. I'll be here for like till like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Poor Michael was so
We
upset.
didn't even take it outside.
No.
thankfully.
I drove for like fucking
Sped there.
speeded there, and I got there. So I ran upstairs, and I saw it, and like in my head, I was like, knowing my luck, the case will be here, but the actual contents of it will not be.
It'll be
So I'm
gone.
like,
Oh my God.
I
Like just
open
so
up-
defeated.
dude, I open it up like, and I go like this, and I'm like, oh, and I literally collapsed over top of it.
Yeah.
And Zev was just standing there, just being like, what the f-?
With our so imagine we have a trash bag over our window. It's like
Yeah.
pouring rain, water's getting in.
So for like
Oh
3
my
days, I was
God.
like, Zev, I swear to God, I'm not a serial killer.
Yeah, we're like, Zev, he's never been like that in his
I've
life.
never done this before. I don't know why this triggered me in the way that it did, but I am so sorry.
Because it was just too much.
Yeah,
but he was
insane.
poor Michael was so it was like, you know, he was mourning the death of someone. Like when Bill answered Bill woke up out of a dead sleep because he didn't, he went home and went to bed. We had to go get our window fixed and do all that, or go get a trash bag on it, yada yada.
Yeah.
And so Bill wakes up out of a sleep. Like he thought that we got in a car accident and we were like, Michael was like dead out on the road or something. Like he was
It
like
made no sense.
he was like, what? Tell him I'll just buy him a new one. That's what he said.
Yeah,
Did I say that?
yeah.
Yeah. Like he was just like, what? It's fine.
I've
you know?
never lost or I've never just been that irresponsible before, but I don't know why. Like, it's just that broken window just fucking hit me, and I just was not.
This is like a
Thinking straight at
BoJack
all,
Horseman
you know?
episode or
Poor
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like everything
Insanity.
progressively gets worse.
Yeah.
I've never yelled at you like that. I had to scream at him like I was in a fight with him. Go, get back in the fucking car right now. You're gonna get hit by a car. Get in the
Yeah, I was like on the road, just like throwing my hands out, just being like,
Michael!
ah,
Michael Stringer. Yeah, he was like, ah! And imagine Zev. He's just in the front seat. He's just like
It's like, oh my fucking God.
he's probably texting his girlfriend like, get me the fuck out of here.
yeah.
I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Canadians are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Poor Zev. Poor Zev.
Man, I didn't
There's
know
just-
any of that. That's
No,
insane.
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew about the window, but the rest is Jesus Christ. You guys are giving me
yeah.
anxiety tonight. Fuck.
Dude.
I'm sorry.
Our band is like this facade, like this veneer of like professionalism, and then behind it is we're just always just
Ah,
hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
Like we're just like, because it's so, this is dramatic. We all think of all the crazy dramatic stuff if you look back in your band.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Why,
it
you know?
happens, man. It's just how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So it was interesting, but we're trying to be positive about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just glad that didn't happen when we were in Europe, so we didn't have to be embarrassed in front of our new cool friends.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
have been much worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wasn't-
holy fuck. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean,
Well-
yeah. I can imagine how shitty I would feel if I left all of my gear somewhere and even on just a regular day, not like a whole European tour, was relying on the gear I left behind. So I don't know. I would probably have the same reaction as you.
Oh, I know exactly how you would react,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it would be a fucking train wreck. I know it. I
have
know
never
it.
seen
You
Andrew.
don't even
be more
lose
like,
stuff, and you already
"Hello."
freak out.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never seen Andrew freak out. I would see him going, "Oh dear, I can't believe this has
oh
happened."
shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Johnny's
Yeah.
seen it a few times. It's rare.
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's oh fuck,
not
yeah, it's
good.
funny. It's funny. But
In
it's
Iwabo,
awful, but
someone stole our entire trailer off of our van, and we never found it again.
It gives me
So-
nightmares, man.
Yeah, dude, like with all of our stuff in it. So like we're like every band dude's just like, everyone's
Yeah.
gotten their stuff broken into or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just like
sucks.
part of the. Unfortunately, it's just like part of being on the road at all times.
Hell
It
yeah.
fucking happens.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
dude.
let's call it here. It's been super fucking awesome. Like, thanks for
Yeah.
spending so much time with us talking about so many crazy fucking stories. I'm literally sweating. But yeah, sincerely though, from the bottom of Andrew and I's hearts, like, thank you so much for supporting us and everything we do. We're always going to support you guys no matter what.
Aw.
Thanks
You're
for
the
doing this with
best.
us.
Oh, we love you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you
We
so
love
Yeah, we
you
love you
guys.
guys.
And
Yeah.
Fuck
truly, we are so impressed with how great you guys are so good at podcasts, and you're not even getting to do it together in the same room and hosting it in the same room. So like, if you're
Yeah.
this good at it now, imagine when all this quarantine stuff is over and you can be reunited
Yeah.
soon.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe next weekend or
I
the next one after
know.
this might be the first one we do in person. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Hell
thank
yeah.
you. We seriously appreciate that. We're
Yeah.
just kind of figuring shit out. So
Well,
we'll see
and
how
we're
it
gonna
goes.
have you on our little Patreon podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fuck
It's
yeah,
like
that'd be super fun.
It's
All right,
it's
now my
Patreon,
AirPods are
so
dying,
training.
so this is the perfect time.
Yeah. So it's like, but don't worry, no one has the Patreon one's like it's like has training wheels on it. Like we don't put that out. It's just for the people that are in those tiers.
Right.
And so it's like we get to just kind of share our friends with them, but then we don't have to embarrass ourselves because we're horrible podcast hosts. You'll see. You'll be on it.
Yo,
Sounds
You guys will
great.
see.
Oh, it sounds dope.
They
That's great.
see.
yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
thanks again, guys. We'll
yeah.
cut it off here. See you
Yeah.
later.
See
You
ya.
Thanks,
guys are the
guys.
best.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah. It was much longer than I thought it was going to be, but it was awesome to hear. I don't know. I was kind of excited for this one. I mean, not only because we're pretty good friends with all three of them, but in addition to that, like they have so much history, each of them, and so many different ways about all the bands they were in and all their insane tour stories. And we know a lot of other tour stories, which are not on this podcast, but they always have, crazy stuff to tell us. And yeah, it's just always a good time.
Yeah, I love picking their brain about the stuff that they've done and like even just currently what they do with Spiritbox and their plans and stuff. Like genuinely when I say like they're an inspiration, they definitely are, just in terms of everything that they've done and what they're doing. Like it's awesome to see a group of like-minded people doing really awesome things and succeeding at what they do.
Definitely.
And then just like going back into their history, like I vaguely knew about the stuff with Courtney with Iwabo, but like how intense that whole situation was for them too is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a big fanboy of Fallen Archaea, so getting to talk to Mike about that is really cool. If
Yeah.
you told 2008 me, who saw them back then, that I would be talking to them now, it's pretty nuts for sure.
Yeah.
And Bill is a legend in his own too.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, we're tight with Bill and he's fucking hilarious, but he is like a legend within our scene, and
yeah.
it's
Well,
awesome to have him on as well.
It's funny because I probably actually knew the least about Bill because I didn't listen to Textbook or Living with Lions that much. They were a little bit, well, I mean, I guess maybe they weren't before my time because you listened to them, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess I knew who they were, but I didn't really listen to them when they were kind of around more, so I missed out on a lot of that stuff. And like, even though out of the three of them, like I talked to Bill the most by far, like, it's just not something that comes up in every conversation. So I actually learned a lot about him today, and it was cool.
Yeah, Bill is, he's a humble guy, right? He doesn't really talk about that stuff too much unless you ask him.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is great, like, because he has done a lot of stuff, and there will be other people that will always gloat about that shit and be like, yeah, I've done this and that, but he's pretty low key, and he's like, yeah, I've toured with A Day to Remember,
Yeah,
suck
crazy.
my balls, like stuff like that. Like I love Bill, like
yeah, he's a
awesome
great
person.
guy.
I love all of them. They're fantastic people, and I'm glad that we did this one with them. And I knew it was going to be this long for sure, because I know they have a lot to say, and
Yeah,
that like even what they said there is, they've
Yeah.
told us some pretty fucking good stories besides
yeah.
those.
Like I said, that's
So-
really scratching the surface on a couple of those things, but
yeah,
fair enough.
big time.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this will, be the part 2, the ending of that. But we're gonna just kind of move on to a little post talk about stuff that we've been listening to recently. I mean, we've had, or I guess I'll speak for myself personally, but I've had a lot of time to go back and listen to records that I remember listening to when they first came out and stuff. And then there's some new music that's coming out as well that I thought we could kind of chat about and kind of get into a little bit. So we've each picked 3 records that we've been jamming. My first one is a super long record, conceptually really well written. Slice the Cake, Odyssey to the West. So when they dropped this record, I know that there was some drama when it came to dropping it. Like there was like internal feuds, and like one of the members just ended up releasing everything at once out of spite or something like that. That's kind of vague, but the first thing they had was
it came out. It was a 30-minute like spoken word poem called Odyssey to the Gallows. And it was the vocalist like is really well read and very intellectual, and he wrote this whole poem. It's fucking 30 minutes. It's nuts.
Crazy.
And then they also released Odyssey to the West, which is a full concept record, which has like, I don't know, it's like 16 songs, and the songs are long as shit.
Jesus.
Really good record though. It's
I've
like
never listened to it before.
Oh, I already know you would not like it. Just in terms of it's like a very long play record. Like you have to sit down and really listen to it and get into it.
Everything you're explaining sounds like something I wouldn't like, unfortunately.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, it's super awesome. I love just chilling out and listening to this record because it is like a fucking story, man. It takes a long time to get through, but it's worth it. I recommend it to anybody who likes, long conceptual records. I'm gonna do my second one last because we're gonna talk about it.
Okay.
But my the second record that I listened to was an OG like Canadian deathcore tech death band from Montreal, Beneath the Massacre. They came back with this brand new record that's like fucking insane called Fearmonger. Their old material was super iconic and I know really influential, holy shit, to a lot of deathcore bands in general, but especially like the guys in Angel Maker like really like them as well. And it was super sweet when they decided to come back. They went on a really, really long hiatus. But I've heard this record described as a panic attack. Like that's what it feels like. It's just very visceral and just crazy. I totally recommend listening to it. Super awesome Canadian band.
I actually never listened to them either, like either the old stuff or the new stuff.
Oh fuck, you got it, man. It's super good. Really good. The record before this one that came out was like, it was their like See You Later album. Maybe not officially, but it was, and it was really good. Very good. The tones back then too, like I think it was like maybe 2010 or not even, but super great sounding record. And then the last one for me is something I feel like a hypocrite. I feel like I've gone back on my word when it comes to listening to this record, but there's a reason behind it. I told the boys pretty adamantly that I wouldn't listen to the new Lorna Shore record because of everything that happened.
You sure
I just
did.
I was like really against it because I don't like what happened and I don't want to support them, I guess, in that way. And everybody was telling me, you're going to love this record. This is like exactly what you want to listen to because it totally is. Like everything about the Immortal record is so fucking awesome. And it took me listening to the Brand of Sacrifice podcast where they were interviewing the Lorna Shore drummer, and he was talking about like, the amount of work they put into recording that record, working really closely with their producer, and they really didn't want what happened with their vocalist to tarnish all the hard work they did. And I kind of like, it almost made me feel bad. I was like, fuck, like, God
everything
damn it,
that everyone else already told you.
Yeah, it made me feel really bad, and I was like, I need to listen to it. I just got to do it because I know I'm gonna like it. So I did, and I put my feelings aside as to what actually happened with all the drama, and I was like, fuck, man, this record's really good.
Yeah.
It's like a really well done deathcore record with like symphonic black metal influences. They actually have choruses. It's like the most digestible Lorna Shore record they've ever made. Like, very fucking good.
Yeah.
So
I
sorry
only
to
care
everybody I
about-
said I wouldn't listen to it.
That's all I wanted to hear. I like
Yeah.
hearing you go back on your word. It doesn't happen often. It's a
I was
rare,
wrong.
rare treat.
I still won't listen to As I Lay Dying.
Okay. There it is. And we're back.
That's it.
Yeah, and as for myself, honestly, like I don't know, I haven't really heard anything brand new that has completely blown me away since I guess like February or so. Like I've still been hearing new music that's good, but none of it has really like hit that like A tier of like amazingness for me personally. Like I was listening to the new Dance Gavin Dance album and I thought it was good, but it's something about it just didn't hit that next level for me like their last album did. and a few things here and there. Also, I do like my monthly live streams on my channel where I check out like my fans' bands, and there's usually some pretty awesome stuff there. So I've discovered some good new bands there too. But usually for those bands, it's more like singles, or maybe it's just my own fault and I haven't gone back and actually listened to their full EPs, even if I like them, which I should do. But anyways, I digress. So for me, the three things honestly that I've still been listening to the most have been basically the same since February. The first of which is Reflections album Willow. I'm surprised. Well, I guess it makes sense that you didn't have it in your list because you moved on to other stuff. But
I listen to that record a lot.
Yeah, that still is one of the things I've been listening to the most. It's so ridiculously heavy, and I just like everything about it. Also, I mean, we got to hang out with Logan a lot at NAMM, and I feel like that in some way made me like it even more. And also, no, I can't say that part. Never mind. You'll see in the future what I wanted to just say now, but didn't. Anyways,
Don't say it.
Yeah. So Reflections Willow, great album, and I'm still liking it a lot. Next up is Dealer's EP. As you guys all
Shocker.
know, yeah, Dealer's first EP, Soulburn, last year was my favorite album of 2019. I don't care that it's an EP, whether it's a full length or an EP. It can go in my top list. I don't give a shit. So with Saint, it's a shorter EP because it only has 4 songs instead of 5. At first, when I heard it, I liked it, but I didn't think it was quite as good as Soulburn. It kind of just felt like Soulburn Part 2, I guess, is what a lot of people seem to be saying. And I can definitely agree with that. Like, there are some parts, especially in the first song, Tourniquet, that sound almost identical to their song, what is it, Grotesque, I think it was called. And I thought that was kind of weird the first time I heard it. And then the more I listened to it, I mean, this might not be the case, but I feel like they actually did that on purpose because it's like a whole new lineup. And I think they definitely, they used basically exact copies of riffs they had already used. I was like, there's no way they just did this fucking by accident. I mean, maybe they did, I don't know, but I feel like they did it on purpose. And anyways, long story short, the other 3 songs are, in my opinion, actually way better than Tourniquet, which was the single they released. And yeah, I've just been jamming those a lot. I love that fucking band, and everything they do just hits so goddamn hard, and it's always just so fun to listen to. Just ignorantly heavy, stupid breakdowns, and I fucking love it.
They're doing that sound that is popping off right now, the best out of
so many bands are already copying what they're doing, and like when you have that many bands coming up that are trying to copy you, like you're fucking doing something right. And trust me, I'm one of those people trying to copy them too, so I get it. But anyways, and then the last band is also no surprise, it's Loathe, of course. I let it in and it took everything. I cannot imagine any band releasing an album that will top this in 2020, in my opinion. There's other stuff I'm still excited to hear, but
big words.
I don't know, man. Like, I would be very, very, very surprised if this is not my absolute number one of 2020 by the time this year is up. I know that there's still 7 months left in the year, basically. But I don't know, man. It's a pretty fucking perfect album, in my opinion, and I absolutely love it. I still am listening to this album basically front to back, which I never do. Normally I only listen to a few songs here and there, but with this album it's just like, I don't know, man, I can listen to the whole thing all the way through, and every single time I listen to it I notice something different, and it's just so good. I absolutely love it.
It flows really well. It's an example of a record that I really like in terms of themes coming back. Songwriting is really good. There's tons of unique things going on, so many influences from so many different bands,
and they're just so good at jumping between these like polar opposites of sounds. Like Two-Way Mirror is like a Deftones worship song basically,
100%,
but they did it so well. Like, I've never heard any other band that sounds that much like Deftones, but also kind of not like Deftones at all at the same time. But then on the other hand, you got tracks like Gourd, which is like brutal as fuck, super heavy. Sounds almost like it would be like a Meshuggah track, almost like a slightly more metalcore Meshuggah. And then they got that black metal song like right after. It's just like fucking crazy. But somehow it all makes sense, and it still sounds like the same band, even though they're completely different sounds on like almost every song.
When Anthony Fantano reviews your record, that it's doing stuff.
Yeah, he didn't like it, but I fucking love it.
He gave it a decent review. I knew he wasn't gonna love it because he usually doesn't review like core stuff, really highly.
Yeah.
But it was still awesome to see them on his channel, anyways, because that's huge.
Yeah. I don't really
So-
follow him at all. I think you sent me that video. That's the only reason I saw it.
Yeah, I love him.
But-
He's the shit. But yeah, that record is very good.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I can't think of anything else that will top it that I know is coming out at least. I mean, I don't know. Like the new Purchase the Hero album is going to be pretty awesome, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a number one.
We'll see. There's still a lot of time left, and a lot of music is going to come out of this quarantine time. So we'll see
True.
what bands concoct.
I'm excited to hear that new Ghost Inside too. That's for sure.
Yeah,
The
they just
two
dropped another
singles have been-
single.
yeah, that was a really good one actually. I think they dropped that yesterday. It's great.
Hmm. We have to take Chris up on his offer.
Yeah, if he is down, that would be fucking awesome to talk to him.
Hmm.
Chris being the guitarist of the Ghost Inside, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this was long, but it was great. I'm glad that we did it with the homies. And
Yeah. Next podcast
yeah.
you see, we might actually be doing it in person. I guess we probably will be. I don't see why we wouldn't.
Yeah, we potentially could. We'll have to figure some stuff out in terms of recording, but we can definitely do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But hopefully next time we'll be doing nice. Hopefully next time we'll be doing it in person and smell each other's burps and all that good stuff.
The burps are back, baby. I don't give a shit.
But yeah.
All right.
That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, huge thank you to Spiritbox for taking the time to talk to us. And we'll see you next time.
Check them out if you haven't. Goodbye.
Bye.